Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we'll have the latest from the live radar, run for the latest UKV, have a look at the precipitation and the temperature over the next 5 days. We have got a pretty dry spell coming up now, as it does remain warm, but with more stability around with higher pressure. It means we'll see less showers, especially for those who've been affected by those big thunderstorms over the past few days. Now it is a little bit cooler at the moment. We've got a bit of a fresher westerly flow coming in, but in the next few days, especially around Wednesday, Thursday time, temperatures are going to ramp up once again as we do see southerly winds re-emerge. But as I said, it's under higher pressure, which means that hopefully it's actually going to be pretty dry and hot compared to last week, where it was hot but very unsettled, and it could really set the theme for the final half to third of June, as we could be setting up a bit of a heat wave as we do head into that period. The uncertainty we've had over whether we will reach a heat wave or not is just how persistent the temperatures will be. Will we see up and downs where it drops below heat wave thresholds? Because of course, remember, we need 3 consecutive days above heat wave thresholds to get an official heat wave as per the Met Office, and at the moment definitely looks like that is a real possibility later on this week into next weekend. So do remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe. Now if you start on the live radar, you see not too much going on at the moment, a few bits and bobs, a few odd showers around, but generally speaking a dry day and a westerly flow pushing in. Now do put on the temperatures. On this around lunchtime, you still see it's warm today, it's just not as hot and not as oppressive, and that humidity has dropped quite a lot compared to Thursday, Friday, and even a little bit earlier on Saturday. You can see where the heat is now across Eastern Europe, towards Eastern Germany, out towards Poland. That's where all that heat is getting pushed away to, and you can see more of a fresher but still warm westerly flow is pushing in. Now to go over to the latest UKV, see a few odd showers around early this morning, but generally speaking not too much. A few bits and bobs of rain closer to lower pressure sat out to our north and west. So for Scotland, Northern Ireland, there will be bits and bobs of rain, but generally speaking it doesn't look too bad over the coming days. A few weak weather fronts pushing in. You can see not really giving much in the way of rain, and just generally speaking it remains dry and fairly warm all the way to Friday. Now when that southerly wind arrives, there's a bit of instability. Whenever we see these big warm hot air masses moving in, all you need is a small trigger to see a few showers popping off, and that's what you see here across the Republic of Ireland. But generally speaking it is a drier theme, and you can see if we put the upper air temperatures, it's much fresher right now, 4-5 degrees at 850 HPA. But if we do move closer into next week, maybe getting back towards 10 degrees, so looking at maybe mid-20s come Monday and Tuesday, and slowly through Wednesday and Thursday, look at those southerly winds really strengthening, maybe up towards 15, 16, 17 degrees at 850 HPA come Friday. That would definitely put us above that 30 degree mark, and it isn't just a singular push. It does look like it could be a little bit more sustained, or at least that's what the update has today. So it means that those temperatures might not just be there for a day or two. Could be 3, 4, maybe even 5 days if we are lucky, as we do progress into the final 10 days or so of June. Now if you look at the temperatures this afternoon, 20 to 24, so very pleasant, average to slightly above average still, but it's a fresher feel. Into Monday, temperatures nudging slightly higher, 25, maybe at 26 in there. Not too bad as we head into the start of the new working week. Into Tuesday, temperatures nudging higher, 25, more 26 and maybe 27s. And then look at Wednesday, temperatures up more towards the 27s, and you can see into Thursday, that's where temperatures start to exceed the heatwave thresholds, up toward 28, 29, and probably locally 30 degrees. And I'd expect it to get even hotter into Friday, maybe 31 or even 32, as that really warm air mass starts to waft in. Now, if you look at the longer range, you'll be able to see why this does start to evolve. Westerly flow at the moment, but still under higher pressure, and that's why it's dry and still reasonably warm. You can see though later on this week, those southerly winds start to push in, and you see it's hot but dry. Now there could be a few little bits of lower pressure coming in from the north at times, maybe the southwest, so we're not going to be completely absent from showers and storms, but it's not going to be any big outbreaks like we've seen over the last 2 or 3 days. As we head into the longer term though, there is a bit more way of lower pressure, so perhaps something a little bit more unsettled there. But if we do run it back to, let's say, 6 days time, look at that big waft of heat coming up from the south. Nothing record breaking, nothing could put us into the mid to high 30s or anything ridiculous like that, but high 20s and low 30s definitely possible and probable in this scenario, before eventually around sort of the 26th, 27th, that hot air starts to get pushed away. Now it's very similar on the latest GM. All models are really pretty on board with this scenario. We've got this high pressure in control, southerly winds continue to push in through much of next week, and eventually towards day 10 we start to see that hot air getting nudged away, but even here it's still across central and eastern parts. Now this run actually does go even hotter. You can see the 20-degree isotherm gets in. You see this big gouge of red there, 20-degree isotherm, and my gosh, the temperatures would be high. Now you look at the temperatures here and you think, oh, they're not too high, 25, 26s. This is at midnight, and by day 34, 35. So GM is exceptionally hot in the latest run, so we'll have to see exactly how this does evolve, but yeah, low to mid 30s, maybe even upper 30s are possible from the GM today. Ridiculous heat being seen here. We'll have to keep a very close eye on it. It just shows you we're looking hot, we're looking dry, potentially very hot if this sort of scenario came off. But as I said, it is on the top end of the ensembles at this stage. And finally, if we compare it to the latest ECMWF, again a westerly flow continuing over the moment, but high pressure stays in control. Eventually, longer term low pressure does nudge back in for the final few days of June, but generally speaking, still lots of high pressure around, still lots of heat. So I don't think it would be too bad either, but it's that GM run that's been the star of the show today. After you check out the latest ensembles, you can see it's just an upwards trajectory of the coming days. Temperatures back to average today, but into the next 24 hours, it's going to nudge back above average and then just continue to rise throughout this whole week. You see, by the end of the week, come next weekend, precipitation starts to re-emerge, a few odd showers, but that's just uncertainty within the models. But we're still on an upwards trajectory with those temperatures, and you see where some go up toward the high teens or even 20 degrees. That is where we would really feel the heat. But anything around 13, 14, 15 degrees, which is where we're getting to at the end of this working week, that is going to be hitting those heat wave thresholds. So definitely on course for that. We'll just have to see how big is the drop off in 7 or 8 days time. Is it like the operational run where it just keeps going, or is it like some of these other ensemble runs which drop us back towards average? We'll have to wait and see, but definitely quite a substantial increase in those runs, bringing a bit more longevity to this heat into the final week of June. We've been confident for a few days now there's going to be another spike this week. That was even a thumbnail of yesterday's video, but it's now, could we see something a bit more long term? Yesterday, most were dropping off quite quickly. Now, a lot more are hanging on. And you can see what it does to the 2 meter temperatures, widely mid to high 20s. And again, you can see a bit of a diversion there as we head towards the 23rd, 24th. Some go back down to low 20s, others into the low 30s. The other big thing to note is dew points. Now, the dew points don't actually look too high over the next week or two, so there shouldn't be too much humidity. It will still feel oppressive if we get into the 30s, but the dew points over the last few days have got up toward the high teens, 17, 18 degrees, and we've got very few getting anywhere near that. So hopefully a lot less humid and oppressive in the next week or so. I do want to check out the GEM run as well. You can see that operational run was one of the hottest runs here, but not completely. There's still lots of support there, and the ECMWF is pretty similar. Big spike in heat, and again, very uncertain how big will that drop off be. Some runs keep it very hot, like the operational runs, others go cooler. But I think, yeah, what I said about the GFS, where there's been a substantial increase in the longevity of some of the heat here, it has continued here on the ECMWF. So definitely a shift today from not just a spike in heat, but perhaps something persistent, very reminiscent of a mid to late June heat wave. Well, again, we'll have to keep a very close eye on it. Not suspecting we're going to reach heat wave thresholds to at least Thursday. That's those 25 to 28 degree mark. As I said, it does depend on the area of the country, but I suspect it'll be around Thursday when most areas start to reach those sort of temperatures. We'll have to wait and see how long it does last, but definitely if you're looking for something very hot, sustained, and most importantly dry, then this update today is definitely very good. So anyway, thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.